Buffalo officials say the attack was fueled by hate.
This individual came here with the expressed purpose of taking as many black lives as he possibly could.
The alleged manifesto talks about white people being replaced by people of color, a fear given expression in the so-called Great Replacement theory.
This ideology that claimed lives in the grocery store in Buffalo is the same ideology that claimed Jewish lives in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue, the same ideology that claimed lives down at the Walmart in El Paso.
Wesley Lowery is a journalist and author who has covered racially motivated violence. And he says white supremacist ideology is spreading and notes it's been discussed on Fox News.
White Americans are being told and being poisoned through the internet, but also through some relatively mainstream media organizations on the right, being told that they're facing a demographic crisis and that they have to stand up for themselves.
President Joe Biden and the First Lady are set to go to Buffalo on Tuesday. Today, Biden acknowledged that hate is a deeply rooted problem.
We must all work together to address the hate that remains a stain on the soul of America.
But it's not just America.
It's not happening in the basement of a KKK meeting anymore. This is happening globally.
Replacement theory was a factor in the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand, where 51 people died. New York's governor wants online companies to be held accountable for material being posted, including live streams of shootings.
They absorb this. This becomes part of their mentality, and they share it with others through the internet. That's the responsibility of the internet, and the individuals who are responsible are the ones who own these companies.
Live streaming service Twitch said it removed the video within 2 minutes and are cooperating with authorities. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington. The search for answers and calls for action are getting louder.
How many more lives have to be taken before something is done?
Police say the shooter was radicalized online, driven to hate by the so-called Great Replacement theory, the idea that white people are being replaced by people of color. It's been tied to other mass shootings, including 2019's in Christchurch, New Zealand.
There's a sense of community online that eggs them on, and they use what they learn online to go on to the physical world and kill people.
It moved from more fringe communities online to more mainstream.
Those who've studied replacement theory say it's been seen in Europe, India, and the U.S.
This idea that certain groups are replacing other groups are being quite popularized with far-reaching implications for minorities.
And it's casually seeped into mainstream media, too. Here's how Tucker Carlson talked about it on Fox News.
The Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world.
For many people, the solution has to be systemic.
We intend to hold those responsible for the root of the hate, the people who curate the hate, the people who inspire the hate on websites and internet services and cable news stations.
As for gun control, so many mass shootings have resulted in no real change.
I think the focus ought to be on trying to be preventive rather than to restrict legal buying from people.
Tomorrow, President Joe Biden will visit the grieving community. He will offer presidential support, if not a solution, for this very American problem. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
Diving deeper into the accused gunman's white supremacist views, they fit in with what's known as replacement theory, the fear by a few outspoken white people that they're being replaced by ethnic minorities. It is promoted by some cable news personalities and by others who claim they're good people on both sides of the white supremacist thinking. Here's Lauren Glassberg.
Charleston, and now Buffalo. Mass shootings likely provoked in part by extreme racism and a belief in the false Great Replacement theory.
It's pretty clear to me that the Great Replacement theory was at work here.
Scott Richmond heads up the New York and New Jersey section of the Anti-Defamation League. His organization is already looking into the 180-page ramblings left by the accused gunman in the Buffalo shooting. He says it is filled with the kind of hate rhetoric that is freely espoused on social media.
First of all, we need to reform social media, and we need to reform the laws surrounding social media.
But it's also repeated by politicians and amplified by talking heads.
I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
That feeds into vulnerable minds, according to Jennifer Jones Austin, who heads up the New York City Racial Justice Commission.
Now you no longer have to go searching, fishing on the internet and other places to find this information. You just turn on the news or the alleged news.
She says it's time to better regulate media and also encourages more education and greater effort to discredit conspiracies before they lead to violence.
The more that this picks up, and takes hold, at some point it may come to your neighborhood. And so you need to be vigilant and you need to be engaged and use, everybody needs to begin using platforms to speak out against replacement theory.
And now leading social justice groups are calling on President Biden to convene a summit to address the threat of these extremists, the increase in bias and hate crimes, and these conspiracy theories that are running unchecked.
A mass shooting in Buffalo has rekindled debate over Great Replacement theory or just replacement theory. The Great Replacement theory has been around for a very long time on the fringe of the Republican Party and in racist circles. In recent years, we've seen the Republican Party and its members embrace a version of the theory that immigrants are being brought here to dilute the votes of Republicans and conservative Americans.
What appears to them is we're replacing national-born American, native-born Americans to permanently transform the political landscape.
Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America to ensure that they stay in power forever?
They can't win re-election in 2022 unless they bring in a large number of new voters to replace the voters that are already here. That's what this is about. We have an invasion in this country.
Fox News has played a major role in mainstreaming this idea in recent years.
Democrats who want to replace you, the American voters, with newly amnestied citizens.
Congress is not going to act because one party has a vested interest in changing the population.
If you use the term as an invasion, that's not anti-Hispanic, it's a fact.
I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
After the 2012 election, Republicans issued an autopsy which suggested that the party needed to get right with Hispanic Americans and perhaps tone down their rhetoric on immigration. After the 2012 autopsy, there was a thought that Republicans might come around to embracing comprehensive immigration reform. But that fell apart in 2013 after a surge in crossings at the southern border. And after a couple years, the hardline anti-illegal immigration movement really took off in the party in the form of Donald Trump sailing to the Republican Party nomination.
I think this will be the last election that the Republicans have a chance of winning because you're going to have people flowing across the borders. You're going to have illegal immigrants coming in and they're going to be legalized and they're going to be able to vote. And once that all happens, you can forget it.
In 2018, we had a mass shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue. And in 2019, we had tragedies in both Christchurch, New Zealand, and in El Paso, where the shooters spoke in documents linked to their motivations about the idea of invasions or a great replacement taking place. So in some ways, the right's increasing embrace of replacement theory has been bookended by tragedies in which the shooters espouse some version of this theory more focused on race.
Officials believe the gunman accused of the mass shooting in Buffalo was inspired by the white replacement conspiracy theory. Now, this is a baseless belief that white people are being slowly but intentionally replaced by minorities and immigrants.
The concept was once a fringe theory, but now it's embraced by many Republican lawmakers and Fox hosts. CNN's Sunland Serfati explains.
What was once a fringe white supremacist conspiracy theory has now become mainstream.
Jews will not replace us. We know what the Democrats are up to here. They want open borders. This is exactly their strategy. They want to replace the American electorate.
With a growing number of Republican lawmakers now openly promoting the far-right so-called Great Replacement theory.
For many Americans, what seems to be happening, or what they believe right now is happening, is what appears to them is we're replacing national-born American, native-born Americans to permanently transform the political landscape of this very nation.
The racist anti-immigrant theory that says non-white immigrants are being brought to replace America's white population.
This administration wants complete open borders, and you have to ask yourself why. Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America?
Democrat politicians who have decided that they can't win re-election in 2022 unless they bring in a large number of new voters to replace the voters that are already here. That's what this is about.
The white nationalist conspiracy theory is detailed in French writer Renaud Camus' 2011 book called The Great Replacement. And elements of replacement theory appear to have motivated some of the most heinous recent mass murders in the U.S. and around the world. Just this weekend, an 18-year-old man accused of shooting and killing 10 people in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, allegedly wrote a manifesto online claiming ethnic and cultural replacement of whites. The gunman, accused of killing more than 20 people at an El Paso Walmart in 2019, allegedly uploaded a document on the internet before the shooting, saying, quote, "This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. They are the instigators, not me. I am simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by the invasion." The man, who allegedly killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018, spouted nonsense on social media about Jewish people being somehow responsible for immigrant, quote, invaders. And the shooter, who killed 51 people at a mosque and Islamic center in Christchurch, New Zealand, named his own manifesto The Great Replacement. The theory has been amplified by voices on Fox News.
I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No. This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that?
And openly defended by name by sitting members of Congress.
Thanks to Sunlen Serfati for that. And CNN has followed up with a few of those Republicans. For more clarification, we have not heard back.
All right, Scott Jennings is a former special assistant to President George W. Bush and a CNN political commentator. Errol Lewis is also a CNN political commentator. Gentlemen, welcome back. Scott, let me start with you. We saw J.D. Vance, the Ohio Republican Senate nominee, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin there. We just showed the Matt Gaetz tweet. Why isn't Republican leadership in Congress speaking out more about this, against this theory that we're hearing so much about?
Well, I think that they are, if they were sitting here, they'd probably say that there's a conflation going on between the racist, nonsense that this shooter supposedly believed in, which is that, Jewish leaders are, orchestrating some behind the scenes replacement, versus open borders or illegal immigration debate. That's what they would say. The reality is what everyone should say today, Republican, and I'll speak for my side, is that this theory is crazy, it is psychotic, it is racist, and it can infect people. That's not to blame anyone. I don't know if this guy could pick Tucker Carlson out of a lineup. He seems like a crazy person to me. But there's only one thing to say on a day like today, and that is to denounce hate, to denounce racism, and to denounce anybody who fans these flames. And Victor, I heard, just if I might for a moment, I heard what you said a few moments ago about these things devolving into political debates and nothing ever happens. And I thought it was an incredibly powerful statement. And I think the correct political posture today is to say denouncing hate is what we should be doing today, and not allowing ourselves to get stuck in the mud is what we should be focused on tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, Errol, of course, Scott's right to denounce hate, but Tucker Carlson has a big platform, and many nights he talks about the white replacement theory. He's very worried about being replaced, apparently. He's a big purveyor of this. How much do you think that has allowed it to permeate mainstream politics?
Well, I mean, that is the function of a Tucker Carlson, is he takes these odious fringe ideas and he imports them into the mainstream. And he always, does it with like the sort of the cutesy, oh, I'm just asking questions, I'm just wondering, or, my vote is being diluted and so forth. And it stacks one lie on top of another, and that's, of course, what a conspiracy theory is one lie stacked on top of another, playing to the worst instincts. Media leadership, just like political leadership, requires an element of responsibility, of taking seriously one's obligation.